My mother new fiancé wants me to call him Dad. He's 24. How do I navigate this? Please buckle in because this is all so weird. I'm a 35-year-old man and for some backstory my dad died when I was 19, leaving my mom with me and my two siblings. I'm the oldest. It took some time but eventually my mom started dating again. We don't live together per se but our houses back onto each other and have a gate so it's pretty common for her to offer to do my laundry or me just go over for dinner or go look after our dog, that kind of stuff. Plus me and my siblings go over there for dinner every other Friday night or so. A bit after she started, the men she's been dating have been getting younger and I've never had a problem with them. She's been very open to me and my siblings that she wants to get married again and we've always been supportive. At least after the initial shocks lol. The latest guy is by far the most serious and they've been dating since around last June. He proposed at the start of autumn and they want to get married next summer. Again, me and my siblings are fine with this because it's her life and we trust him. He's a nice guy and they clearly love each other. But anyway, so long and short is, this weekend, her fiancé, let's call him Phil, calls me and asks me if I could come over. I say yeah sure, I'll be over after work and I assumed he just needed help with some DIY stuff they're doing. When I get over there he calls me sport and says we need to talk. I should mention this is something he does to me and my little brother, calling us things like kid, sport, scout, little buddy, or my personal favorite, calling us red and blue seemingly out of nowhere. My brother is 30 by the way. He tried it with my little sister, 28, once and called her princess once but he stopped when she just stared at him. So thing with Phil is that he reminds me a lot of Charlie Day's character in Horrible Bosses in that his sole ambition has always been to meet a girl, get married, and have a family. When he told me and my brother this, my brother made some joke about how maybe our mom's going to come short on the last part and he got very upset but they made up after. Anyway, so I go round and I ask if my mom's around and he says no, it's just him and that we really need to talk man to man. I say sure and he starts talking about how he's always wanted to be a father etc. and raise a son to call his own and then he drops this bombshell by saying, now I know I can never replace your father, the man who made you, but it would mean the world to me if you could call me dad. I'll admit it, I sniggered a little. And then I knew he was serious because he looked like he was about to cry. And he didn't drop it either. I asked if he really meant it and he got really emotional and started talking about what it means to be a man, and how his purpose is to have and provide for a family and he wants me and my siblings to be part of that family. Like he reiterated he'll never replace my father, and this did rub me the wrong way a bit, but he's ready to step up and be my dad and provide for and protect me and my siblings. And I'm just sat there thinking, dude I'm a decade older than you and live in a separate house. I don't need providing for and even if I did, I don't think a guy a third of my age who works part-time at the hardware store and is into collecting manga is the man to do it. No offense if you are into that lol, just, I dunno, I was a bit taken aback. I was in shock so just said, okay, and he gets emotional again but in a happy way talking about how he wants to go camping or go to a baseball game, I don't even like baseball LMAO, and how he joined the Lions this year and how he wants to bring me into it too, as his boy, which just feels so surreal. Even more so as I'm a Shriner so all this talk of service and charity isn't the brag he thinks it is. Because again I'm 10 years older than this guy. Well I ended it by just saying, this has gotten a bit too weird and I was going home. He got very upset and I left, called my brother and he agreed it sounds weird as fuck. Later my mom called me and she wasn't disappointed but admitted it's made him very upset and depressed. I told her that if he's embarrassed, he doesn't need to be. I get he's excited about the marriage and we can just laugh this off as a funny story. She then said that wasn't what he was upset about, he, and she too a bit, is upset about the fact he poured his heart out and I rejected him. She said yeah it is a bit kooky but this is how he proves to himself he's a man and I guess I was a bit angry and said something like, first off it's not my job to certify what's between his legs and second this doesn't prove he's a man, it just proves he's a nut job. I apologized immediately but she said she didn't want to hear it and hung up. She called back 10 minutes later and we apologized and she begged me to just go along with it until he has some kids to call his own. I won't go too much into the details here but she sort of let slip they plan to try IVF treatment because she's not ready to give up on being a mom just yet. And while I have my own thoughts about whether or not that's a good idea, I'm not here to litigate on that. We finished up fine and I reiterated I'd support her and she agreed that it was definitely a stressful situation for me but begged me to at least think about it. Which leads me to here. I did think it over and obviously I'm going to say no. I had a dad and he died, rest in peace dad, and that's the only dad I've ever needed, I've ever wanted and I'll ever bestow that title on. I'm not asking if someone's unreasonable or what I should do, more so what I should say. This clearly means a lot to him for some reason and I deeply love my mom so want to try and minimize the damage. Especially as we're still so involved in each other's lives and they live behind me. How can I make it clear to them, as painlessly as possible that I think this is weird and borderline offensive? I really don't want to rip the band-aid off because I fear what it might do to the family. Edit. Showed my brother the post and he laughed so hard he started coughing lol then said we should call him Dr. Phil and each other blue and red, so swap the nicknames he gave us around. Thoughts? Edit 2. As people were asking, he has no access to my mom's money or anything like that. She rents the house, and it came pre-furnished and otherwise has no real assets. She doesn't make a lot of money anyway so there's no pecuniary motive we could think of. Comments. Commenter 1. I wonder if he grew up without a dad. He's giving a weird 1950s energy to this whole thing that feels like he only knows about dads from seeing them on the telly. Op. Oh no, his dad's still alive, both his parents are, I've met them. They definitely feel odd about the whole situation but go along with it for his sake. Commenter 2. It seems your mom and her fiancé may have found each other while both in deeply vulnerable states and so your instinct to keep being there for them may be right. A vulnerable person asking is different to a regular situation. Would calling him Pa be a compromise? Or step? Or skip? Some version of his first name such as Coach Tom or Chief Wayne? If so perhaps ask him if that would be okay with him. Maybe just a nickname that his own maybe recognition enough of his relationship with your mom. Edit. I now think Op should get help with how to navigate this. And possibly brain scans for them. Op lives next door, and I thought was asking for ideas to keep the peace for now because of the lad's depression. It turned out to be much stranger than I had thought. Op. The thing is it became apparent it's more than just a name to him. He explicitly wants to do father-son activities with me and my brother with him as the dad despite the fact we're both older than him. Commenter 3. This. Like of course he feels like a child in this relationship and family. He's not going to feel like man of the house in this situation. He's very unlikely to get his own child. So why is he sticking around? Op. Me and my siblings all think he has issues talking to girls his own age. And so, it led to this. Commenter 4. I would have laughed then said, no kiddo. Start over, because this isn't how this is going. I also get you are supporting your mom, but maybe question her having a kid at 58. Like, does she plan to be around for graduation, marriages, grandkids? It sounds like your mom is having some empty nest issues and is, illogically, trying to start over. If she got pregnant today, she would be 77 years old when her kid graduated. Considering she hasn't even started trying yet, that means she will be in her 80s when the kid graduates. That isn't realistic. Also, I have a 5 and 7-year-old and am only 38 years old and already feel tired all the time. I can't imagine what a 58-year-old would feel like. Op. I'm gonna be honest, I don't actually see this ever going ahead, hence why I'm happy to say, yeah of course I'll support you, because I guess I just can't imagine, push comes to shove, her actually getting the treatment greenlit. I did raise the age stuff and she just said, people live a lot longer these days. Commenter 5. You just need to straight up tell him no. You can couch it with encouragement, you appreciate that he cares about your mother, etc., but just hit him with a hard no. Don't negotiate over it, there is nothing to be gained here by trying to give him a soft landing. Anything other than a firm no is just feeding his delusion, and I believe that once he gets a concession, he's going to start making more demands. I don't know what his endgame is here, if it's a mental health problem, or he's trying to create some legal precedent that he intends to exploit later, but it doesn't matter. You don't need to explain, defend, or justify this decision. Op. The endgame. I genuinely think he wants to start a family or at least pretend he's the dad of one. Ever since we met him it's all he'd ever really go on about and how he needs to be a dad to become a man. Very early on, he asked me if I ever planned to have kids and I said no, and he got quite taken aback, like a mixture of offense and confusion and sort of seemed to imply I'm either gay, I am but keeping it secret, or trans because I don't want to be a man then. Commenter 6. Hope it works out in the long run, but I was laughing so hard by the end. Such a crazy situation. I think you should talk with your mom and maybe hang out with her fiancé, but as bros, not some weird dad situation. I have offered this. But every time me and my brother do, he definitely tries to act like the man of the group or sets us up for more explicit father-son activities or just talks about how desperate he is to be a father. A personal favorite was a time when he got his phone out and started reading some pearls of wisdom he'd obviously found online. Commenter 7, yeah, she probably hasn't even been to a doctor, and is just imagining an unrealistic future based on internet articles and Hallmark/Lifetime movies. Based on Op's description of the couple's finances, they wouldn't be able to afford IVF even if it was possible. Op, yeah, she's not seen a doctor, this is purely stuff they've planned to do in the future. They've never mentioned money and my sister has worried that they'll ask us to pay for it. Update, original post and slightly amended the title for clarity. Anyway, so I told both my siblings, and we agreed we'd collectively put our foot down with Phil at our next family dinner next week. Especially after an incident where Phil referred to my brother as sport and asked if he wanted to go see a baseball game with him. Admittedly, I was a bit spurred on by what you all said and got involved, pinging him back with, no tickets for me daddy, and my brother responded with, daddy wants to me all to himself. Hot, and Phil took a few minutes to respond before saying he was shocked, speechless and disgusted. He then messaged me in private to say he was utterly appalled and that he'd never disrespect his own father the way you boys did. I kind of lost it at this point and said, right, that's because you're not my father Phil, you're a 24-year-old man-child dating my mother. You have no right to my respect, especially not to the respect a father gets. I immediately said sorry but then blocked his number and left the group chat. Apparently, he sent a similar thing to my brother who responded with more daddy stuff and Phil blocked him. Well, that aside, I don't think that family dinner is going ahead. After the original post blew up, it seems someone from his Lions Club found it and reported it to their chair or whatever, and Phil has either been expelled or resigned or in the process of one of the two. He has removed nearly all mentions of the Lions from his social media and no longer mentions being a member, with his last post on it being some cryptic goodbye post where he kinda drones on about what it means to be a man in the modern day and the duty of fatherhood bestowed on all men at birth. Really weird shit. My mom called me half in a panic, half in a rage after, about the stuff I'd been telling about him before, breaking down and saying we need to meet, which we did and got my brother to go over too. I know he has temporarily moved back in with his parents in the next town over, but from my understanding they still want to go ahead with the wedding. But I think that's more so because they've already spent money on it. When she said she was determined to have more kids, plural, my brother did step up and asked if she really thought that was a good idea at her age, and I pointed out that assuming she had the baby next year, and she lived to 80, they still wouldn't have finished college. She just stammered on about how people live longer these days, before breaking down crying and admitting she's not ready to give up on mothering due to some deep-seated trauma and fears about the family breaking apart that I won't go into for her sake. When we reassured her that we weren't going anywhere, she calmed down and we had a very good honest conversation where she's agreed to drop the IVF stuff on the grounds that it'd be too expensive and unlikely to get greenlit, but she's still adamant it's scientifically possible and she should be allowed to do it from an ethical standpoint because she has to win that argument, uneasy face, and has agreed to look into fostering instead. Me and my brother highly doubt anything will ever come of that, so we're not that worried anymore. The very good news is she's also agreed to look into therapy/psychiatric help to deal with her trauma, and we've helped get her in touch with a nice lady in town to unpack all this in a more healthy way. So at least one person is getting the help they need. I have no idea what's happened with Phil or what's going to happen with him, but I did make it clear to my mom that he is not my dad, he's not even my stepdad, I'm not a kid, and he's never going to be either one outside of legal fuckery. She relented pretty quickly. I think she's finally broken out of her shell at least, and we've agreed that if things go ahead that's going to be a huge red line, though I dunno if he'll want to be friends with me after all this LMAO. Anyway, thanks for the help on the original post y'all. Edit. Bit of an update as I can't respond to everybody, but I think the marriage is off. Phil has gone AWOL again and has had a huge argument with his family as they've demanded he call off the wedding and date people his own age. This apparently made him snap. Me and my mom have met his mom and older brother, who said Phil is very insecure around girls his own age and has never been able to talk them, hence his preference. This very deeply upset my mom, and after some begging from all of us, she has agreed to push the wedding back, though she wants to keep dating him. I have no idea where Phil is, though his brother assumes he's couch surfing with his D&D friends who have been sending me and my brother some not nice messages because clearly we're just jealous of the MILF hunter. If any of you socially inept fucks are reading this, I don't need to chase middle-aged folk because I can talk to boys my own age like a normal person. Peace.